shuffling papers now.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome to this evening's Candidate Forum sponsored by the North Metro Mayors Association. My name is Jerry Cook and I am proud to be the mayor of the great city of Coon Rapids. Coon Rapids is uniquely districted in that we are represented in the Minnesota State Legislature by 3 state senators and 4 state representatives. This evening's forum will focus on the Senate District 37 race and the House races in 37A and 37B. With us this evening are the state Senate candidates for Senate District 37, Jerry Newton and Brad Sanford. And for House District 37A, we would also like to welcome later the House candidates Anthony Wilder and Aaron Kegel. In the House race for 37B, Nolan West was unable to be with us this evening, so Susan Witt will have an opportunity to introduce herself and share a few comments. Further, we would like to welcome the audience for joining us here this evening and the viewers that are watching the broadcast or internet replays. The North Metro Mayors Association was created in 1987 as a nonpartisan organization advocating for issues and opportunities of importance to Twin Cities' north suburban citizens and cities. Our goal in sponsoring tonight's legislative candidate forum for Senate District 37 is to provide citizens with an opportunity to learn about the candidates' ideas and positions on issues that we believe are important to the future of our communities. We will pose 4 prepared questions. Candidates were advised of the topics, but not the specific questions. Responses will be in rotating order with set time limits on their answers. We would note that these limits are maximums and not minimums. Due to time constraints tonight, we regret that we cannot cover all issues of interest as we will focus on city and state governance questions. We expect that there will be other forums where other issues will be addressed. We will also solicit questions from the audience. We will use as many of those questions as time permits. Please write your questions on the note cards available and give them to one of the North Metro Mayors Association staff who will forward them to me. Questions will be addressed to each candidate, so please refrain from asking for a response from specific candidates. Also, while forming your question, please keep in mind our focus this evening is on city and state governance. And with that, I am pleased to introduce the candidates that are available to be with us tonight for Senate District 37, Jerry Newton and his challenger, Brad Sanford. And at this time, we will have the opening statements from each Senate candidate, 2 minutes maximum, and we'll start with Jerry Newton.
Good evening. I'm Representative Jerry Newton. I currently represent Coon Rapids, Blaine, and Spring Lake Park in the Minnesota State Legislature. This year I'm running for the State Senate in District 37 due to the fact that Senator Alice Johnson has decided to step aside and not run for office. Our family's been a part of this area since 1963 when we opened a Blaine dairy store. And I actually took over the business in 1979 when I retired from the Army. And while I was at the store, my neighbors and customers encouraged me to get active in local politics and to run for city council, which I did. I ran for the Coon Rapids City Council and served on the council for 6 years, sitting where Brad is now sitting. Following that, I ran for I had children in school and ran for the school board, Noka-Hennepin School Board. And I served on the school board for 8 years, pushing programs such as the STEM program at Blaine High School, the International Baccalaureate program at Champlain Park, and have been a part of the community and active in our area for a long time. While on the city council in Coon Rapids, I was responsible for securing funding for the bridge over Highway 10 that leads to Riverdale. If any of you remember, the old bridge was really in bad shape, and in order for the Riverdale project to go forward, we needed funding for the bridge, and I was able to secure that. I also established a national standard for quiet zones for rail traffic safety at rail crossings while I was on the city council. I'm seeking the vote of the constituents in Blaine, Coon Rapids, and Spring Lake Park, and look for their support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. Next opening statement will be from Brad Sanford.
Thank you for allowing me to introduce myself today. I am a father, volunteer, and community leader. I graduated from Blaine High School, so I'm a local product here. I coached youth athletics and enjoyed teaching kids the little things that can make them successful on the field and in life. I managed a bank where several employees were promoted and thrived underneath my leadership. I'm a board member for our local animal rescue and youth athletic association. I am a business owner now in my communities providing insurance services. Each year we receive promises from politicians that they are set to make big changes. Yet after their term, the evaluation shows nothing accomplished. We need lawmakers to look for solutions from the perspective of a parent, a student, a school teacher, an industry leader, a patient, and a healthcare provider. Education is paramount to our future. Each generation depends on the next one to provide solutions of the day. A world-class education is the expectations of everyone. Teachers enter their field for the noblest of intentions, only to be handcuffed with limitations. Roads and bridges are a necessity that has been used as a political pawn for far too long. Our state needs dedicated funding to maintain and improve our aging infrastructure. Our businesses are being heavily taxed, some out of existence. We can provide a world-class education to our children only to see limited job opportunities available when they graduate. Minnesotans have felt the effects of bad legislation in the form of MNsure. We were told that buying through the exchange would lower our costs. We need to provide an alternative to the exponential growth of premiums that we have experienced and expect double-digit growth of premiums again this year. Status quo has serious consequences to the people of our state. If elected, I will bring my business acumen and community leader qualities to the Capitol and make some real changes.
Thank you. At this time, we will go to our prepared questions. This will be done in a rotating order with a rebuttal opportunity. There is a 2-minute time limit for the answer, with a rebuttal opportunity with a 45-second time limit. So since Mr. Newton started us out, then our first question will start with Brad Sanford. And the question is, what are the top 3 issues you hear while campaigning? And if elected, what will you do to ensure what the 2017, And if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2017 Senate and House members work in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address those issues? So what are your top 3 issues while campaigning?
Well, I was always told door knocking is a must to get out and talk to people, and they are absolutely correct. It is absolutely a must. And the things that I'm hearing are MNsure and their premiums just exponentially going up. Talking to some business owners, they are saying that they are making the hard choice of whether or not they will keep employees and keep the benefits or close it all down and send them to the exchange. Those are some very hard things to hear when you're door knocking, because we're all human and we want to take care of everybody, right? So to be able to get the other side to work together with our side and come up with a real solution, I think is paramount. And I don't believe that it is getting rid of MNsure necessarily. It might be just correcting some things and doing that. Taxes would be the second one that I heard. The legislature that we had previously passed $2 billion taxes, and people are feeling that now. They really are tired of taxes being raised on them. It seems like the middleman is just being taken advantage of. He's paying his taxes. He or she is paying their taxes. Going to work, doing their thing, and they're not getting any breaks at all. We're taxing them and building this on their backs, and so that's one of those big things that I hear at the door. And then partisanship. I can't tell you how many times I knock on a door and somebody says to me, "You know what? I'm tired. I'm just tired of you guys all. You just cannot get along. You need to start working together." And so those are some of the things that I would work on to make sure that we can come together and get the answers of the day for our state.
Thank you. Jerry Newton, you have a 45-second time to rebut.
Well, I would say on one of the issues on taxes that actually we didn't have a tax bill last session. the Republican caucus couldn't get their act together, and we ended up not having a tax bill. And in the previous session, when the Democrats had control of the legislature, we actually cut taxes for all but the top 2% of wage earners. So to say that we increase taxes for middle-income people is just simply not the case. And I'll address the other things later.
All right. Our second question, and we'll start with Jerry Newton this time. If elected, which committees would you like to serve on and why?
Mayor Cook, did you want us to each address the same question first? Is that the intent?
I'm sorry. Why don't we do that? That's a really good idea. Oh, okay. Gavel myself. All right. Jerry Newton, what are the top 3 issues you hear while campaigning? And if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2017 Senate and House members work in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address those issues?
The first thing I hear at the door is, out of 300 million people, how did we end up with these 2 candidates for president? Following that, actually, we don't get a lot of questions at the door. We have to sort of prompt people on issues. And the things I'm hearing most about is, as Mr. Sanford mentioned, is gridlock at the legislature. That seemed to be a hotter topic in June and July when we were out there door knocking, but it's become less commonplace now to hear questions about that, and I can address that later. Local transportation needs are often mentioned, and specific needs. In Coon Rapids, the people are concerned about the rail traffic. We have 84 trains a day. Some of the cars are up to 120 cars long. They're blocking our emergency services from getting from one end of the city to the other. And so we are pushing hard in the legislature, and the governor and both houses had agreed that we would get a bridge on Hanson Boulevard, so we've got one certain crossing in the city. In Blaine, 109th Avenue is a major issue. Being able to get across Central Avenue at certain times of the day is really very difficult, and people are concerned with that, and we do need a bridge there. The third thing I'm hearing about is education funding, and our time's relatively limited, but one of the big things is pre-K funding, to make sure that we are able to accommodate those children that want to go to school, and that we have both the teachers and the space in our schools to accommodate them. And in higher ed, the cost of higher education for our students is a big issue for families as well.
Thank you. And now, Brad Sanford gets a 45-second rebuttal to that, right?
That's how we want to do it?
I don't know, I hope so. Yes, I'm getting nods. Okay, it's my first time, yes. All right. 45 seconds, Mr. Sanford.
Well, Jerry's right. The last session, I wasn't thinking of the last session that you were in of 2016, 2015. I was thinking of 2013, where there was 2.1 billion tax increase. And that did go to everyone. So it was led by Governor Dayton and the DFL majority. So I would say that, yes, the taxes did increase for the middleman.
Thank you. Now we can go to question 2, you think, right?
Let's try that.
All right. Question 2 will start with Jerry Newton. If elected, which committees would you seek to serve on and why?
The committees I would seek to serve on are education, K-12 finance, higher education finance, transportation finance, and veterans affairs. And I think the reasons are rather self-evident. I have been actively involved with the school district on education issues for 8 years, and have served 6 years on education finance committees, both finance and policy committees in the House of Representatives. We have issues that we have to deal with. We have mandates that are being passed down by the federal government and state government, especially on things like special education, that aren't fully funded. So the school districts are dealing with unfunded mandate. And just to give you an example, District 11, Anoka Hennepin, just for the special education mandate that's unfunded, it's $40 million $40 million, I always look at $1 million as 20 teachers. That would be 800 additional teachers in our schools, reducing class sizes in what we have as the largest school district in the state. Higher education, again, as I had mentioned earlier, when the MINSCU system was set up for community colleges, the intent was that the students would pay 30% of the cost of the education, the state would pick up 70%. What's happened is that over time, this has eroded so that now the state is paying 30%, students are paying 70%, and anyone who's been involved in higher education knows that the cost of books and things that go with higher ed is really outrageous. Transportation funding and transportation finance, I mean, it's rather evident, the needs that we have. The Hanson Boulevard rail overpass, 109th, 105th Avenue in Blaine, an extension of Highway 10 to 3 lanes, improvement of Highway 10 in Ramsey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I get to rebut him and the things he wants to serve on?
You have 45, you have 45 seconds to rebut that if you like.
Oh, I don't think I would tell Jerry which committees he wants to be on. But
Would you like your 2 minutes then to start, or do you want to take your 45 seconds?
sure, no, we can do that. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'd love to serve on the Commerce Committee and the Higher Education Committee. I think the Commerce Committee, we have seen under Governor Dayton and the DFL punitive damages to businesses. One of the customers I had when I was banking, the state came in and said, we are going to now tax you on this service. So they got a $12,000 additional tax bill. That was 2.5% of their gross revenue. And they're in an industry that their revenues average around 5.5% to 6.5%. So they took quite a bit of their net profits. So commerce would be of interest to me. Higher education would be of interest to me. I have an idea on how to guarantee financing for students coming out of high school. And so that's something that I think I would love to be a part of.
All right, thank you.
Nothing to rebut.
Nothing to rebut there, all right. Our third question then, we'll start with Brad Sanford. Both parties agree that increased funding is needed for road and transit system improvements. How would you propose those funds be raised?
Well, I think what we need is dedicated funds. We need funds that are set aside, and if we need extra funds, we would take them out of the general revenue fund. The idea that I think we should do is $600 million per year for the next 10 years. Now, when I get in, it's like when I ran a bank and I got promoted to another bank. I didn't just go in and clear house and say, you're all gone and I'm replacing you with someone because they weren't producing. I want to go in there and I want to see exactly what's going on and then make my determination from there in what we should be doing with the funds. But I would say, let's not just be our automatic answer to raise taxes. Let's use the general funds that are there, and let's promote business, which promotes jobs for people, because when businesses are promoted and people have jobs, they all pay taxes, and that is going to increase that general revenue fund. So that's where I would go.
Thank you. Mr. Newton, 45-second
Well,
rebuttal.
$600 million doesn't come out of the air, and it's a matter of how those funds are raised. And as you may remember in the last session, the Republican Party was suggesting either raising tab fees, which would have really been more than a gas tax increase. They also had made some proposals of shifting. It was kind of a smoke and mirrors event of shifting money from things that were dedicated for transportation and taking it out of the general fund without any way of replacing the general fund. So we have to look at other alternative sources of funding.
All right, thank you. So now, Jerry Newton, the same question to you then. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No,
All
I
right.
have it here. Thank you, Jerry. One of the things I'd like to suggest is something that I haven't heard before, and that would be changing the existing tax system so we're not taxing gasoline and other things, tabs and so forth, on vehicles, but move to a new form of tax where you're taxing people based on the weight of their vehicle and the number of miles they drive, because it's the weight of the vehicle and the number of miles driven that actually affect the roads and when the roads have to be repaired. And this might take a little while to put something like that in place. You'd have to be able to control speedometers and be odometers rather, and be able to tell how far vehicles are driving. But with the technology that we have now, where we're talking about driverless vehicles, that certainly would be very simple to come up with. But it would be a fair way of doing things, especially now where we're moving to electric vehicles and vehicles that rely only partially on gasoline. It's not right that they wouldn't be taxed, and you don't want to go to an increase in tabs, because that is even worse than a gas tax.
Thank you.
Did I answer that fully? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Mr. Sanford, you've got a 45-second to rebut that.
Well, it seems on the surface that it's okay, but if we are moving towards electric cars and those kinds of things, where are we going to get the funds from? You want to get it from vehicles and how much they weigh and those things. Doesn't that put the burden on businesses that have the big trucks that move our products in and out of our state? And that, again, that's the answer. The answer is to burden the businesses, which in turn burden us, because we know that a business is not going to take on that additional tax. They're going to raise their product. And then what happens to us? We then have to pay more. So it does go down to us in the end when we start burdening the businesses additionally.
Okay. Thank you. Question number 4, we'll go to, are we on, hang on now. Did you both answer the road and transit improvements?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes?
We're on number 4. Yep.
Yeah, all right, okay.
You're
All
doing
right.
great. You really are.
All right, so Jerry Newton, question number 4. You can expect 3,500 bills next session. Each one is important to someone. When it comes to fiscal policy discussions and priority setting, how would you represent and advocate for your district?
Well, I've always advocated for my district, but you can't advocate on 3,500 bills. And so you select those bills that really affect your district and your constituents. And one of the things that I do is I look at the bills as they come up, and I make sure that I go before the committees, or I at least attend the committee hearings to see what the bills are about, and to get my input with my colleagues, both Republican and Democrat, that serve on the committee, to let them know where I am on the issue. And also, on the reverse, is to hear what the committee has to say and then get back to the constituents and the affected parties, might be the city of Coon Rapids or Blaine, and let them know what's going on in the committees. So it's a matter of really follow up, watch your own bills. You have to track your own bills all the time. But it's also to watch the other bills that are affecting your community. Yeah, and it's right. Every bill is important to someone. Actually, when you say 3,500 bills, a lot of those bills are duplications of similar bills. But we do see a tremendous number of bills in the House.
All right. Thank you. Brad Sanford, 45-second rebuttal.
I'll just go into, the question of the 3,500 bills coming up next session. My opponent is absolutely correct. It's very hard to advocate for everyone. One of the things that I want to do is I don't want you guys to just see me every 4 years. I want to do a podcast every year, and I want to take one of those issues, go out to one of the people that I talk to door knocking, and say, this is what you asked for. This is what we did, here's why we did it, and then have a discussion with them on that. And do that in year 2 and 3, and then in 4, talk to them about issues that we would see in the next 4 years. So I can imagine how difficult the job is at 3,500 bills to look at. But as Jerry knows, a lot of the work is done in the committees. And when they get to the floor, they already know how they're going to go. So it's a lot of work on the backside doing all of that. But I think getting out and talking to people additionally in the middle years is very important.
Thank you. Jerry Newton, you have 45 seconds to rebut that if you'd like.
No, that's a good idea. And we do have town hall meetings and actually following up on, a lot of bills are individual bills. And to work with the individuals over and over again as you refine the bill and try to get it going. So, yeah, a podcast would be good, but actually meeting with the public and having town hall meetings, I think, is even more effective.
Thank you. My arm could have been about 4 inches longer, I guess.
You didn't want to be in camera.
All right, so we've got an audience question here, and we are going to be starting then with Jerry Newton. What will you do to help, is that right? Yeah, Jerry, Brad. Let's see now.
This is question 5, so it would start with me.
Yes, it would. I wrote it down backwards. I was trying to be organized. All right, Brad Sanford. What will you do to help reform the Metropolitan Council?
Well, the Met Council has really gotten out of hand. It has taken its power and gone beyond what it was meant to be in the 60s. It was meant to make sure that all the cities merge together, and they do it uniformly, so we don't have 9 million people in Minneapolis and 2 million in St. Paul, or 9 million in St. Paul and 2 million in Minneapolis. And I think the far-reaching arm of Metropolitan has become punitive at this point, and I think what we need to do is we need to take a good look at what they're doing and define what their role should be so that they know exactly what they should be doing.
Thank you. Jerry Newton, you have 45 seconds to rebut that.
Yeah, I'll just go on to answering the questions. I actually had a bill last session that would stagger the term limits of members of the Metropolitan Council. Because one of the issues with Met Council is when you get a new governor, the governor appoints all the members of the council all at once. So the prior members leave, and you start off with a whole new set of people. The problem with that is that you don't have the institutional memory of what's gone on before. And so you end up having staff that really controls things. It's as if in the city we voted for a whole new council all at once without having, a staggered city council. And that gives extra power to the staff, but it leaves the new members sort of at the staff's will, and you see Met Council becomes more of a staff-driven organization.
All right. You have any other questions, Bob? All right. Well, that's good. We got a presidential debate later tonight, so that is the end of our questions for this forum. We will now go to the closing statements of our candidates in the reverse order of our opening statements. 60 seconds maximum per candidate. And since Jerry Newton started out, Brad Sanford, you will go first with the closing comment.
Well, thank you for the time. I really want to let everybody know that I've been a community leader, ran a bank, and had a lot of people promoted underneath me. If elected, what I would do is I would take that acumen to the Capitol, work on both sides of the aisle, and make sure that things are getting done. Having been a business banker, giving loans to businesses, I've done loans up to $20 million. So you work with all kinds of people and all kinds of personalities when you're there. And so having been successful at that, I know that I can reach across the aisle and work with anyone and make sure that we get the business of the state done. You're not asking us to go down there and argue and face off with a Democrat or face off with a Republican. You're asking us to go down there and get the business of the state done. And whether it's exactly what you wanted in the beginning or not, that is what we need to do, is get the business of the state and our cities that we would represent done. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Newton, your closing statement?
Good, thank you. And thank the North Metro Mayors Association, Joe and Bob. And Mayor Cook, thank you. You managed to get through this pretty well.
You get 2 more.
Again, I have worked with the city for a long time. I have over 20 years of experience on city council, school board, and now the legislature. I know the community well. Our family's been a part of the fabric of this community since 1963. We have listened to our community members. We've been engaged, and I intend to fully follow up on the things that I started in the legislature in this next session, and I'm asking for the vote of the people from Coon Rapids, Blaine, and Spring Lake Park. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to the close of this portion of the forum. We would like to thank the candidates, the audience, the CTN, Coon Rapids Television Community Network, and the City of Coon Rapids for hosting. Please remember to vote in the upcoming election. We will have a short break before continuing with the House District 37A forum.
Hey Minnesota, it's election year, so let's get ready to vote. mnvotes.org can help. First, check if you're registered to vote at your current address. If not, register to vote online. Then, check out your sample ballot and learn about the candidates and issues. Use the polling place finder to see where you vote. Or avoid the polling place by voting early, before Election Day. Request your absentee ballot online. Your vote starts at mnvotes.org.
All right, well, welcome back. We're happy to have with us the candidates for House District 37A, Anthony Wilder and Aaron Cagle. And at this time, we'll have the opening statements from each candidate, 2 minutes maximum, and we will start with Anthony Wilder.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Wilder. I am seeking state representative. This is quite the honor. I'm a product of Coon Rapids. I was born at Mercy, attended Epiphany. I went to Totino. This has always been home, and it's quite the honor to be representing us tonight as your candidate. Been very active within our community. Member, let me see here. Fourth generation business owner. I've been a manager with our company, Metrogon Club in Blaine. I've served on 2 different boards, our Natural Resources Conservation Board for Blaine, also a manager for our Coon Creek Watershed District. There's many reasons why I'm running, and to be quite honest with you, this is none of them are for me. This is public service is the most unselfish I think that a person can do. I look forward to the opportunity to serve the community. I've had wonderful discussions at the door with many members of our community, and just look forward to this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Aaron Cagle, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Erin Cagle, and I'm running for the Minnesota House in District 37A, which represents Blaine, Coon Rapids, Spring Lake Park. I grew up in the area and graduated from Osseo High School. And growing up, I spent a lot of time on the North Shore and at the cabin and camping with my family. I learned to love everything about Minnesota, even in the middle of January. My husband and I live in Spring Lake Park, and we really enjoy working on our house, taking our boat out on the river, and spending time with our friends and family at the cabin. And we're even lucky enough to have our 3-year-old niece and 1-year-old nephew just living down the street from us. I earned my graduate and undergraduate degrees from UMD, and my master's degree is in advocacy and political leadership. It's a uniquely Minnesota program focusing on developing leaders that want to make a difference here in our state of Minnesota. I've been working in nonprofits my entire career. I've advocated for homeowners, for workers, for families, and I'm now the volunteer coordinator at a local community action agency. We provide Head Start programming and focus on moving people out of poverty and into self-sufficiency. My job introduces me to people from all walks of life, from people who are finishing up graduate degrees and need internships, to people who are learning English and want to hone their skills. I never thought about running for state office, but when this opportunity came to me, my husband and I talked about it and decided it would be a really good opportunity to continue in public service and really make a difference in the community in which we live. I'm still working full-time, and so for running for office, I understand the issues facing working families, and I feel extremely lucky to have been born and grown up in Minnesota, and I really just hope to, get that opportunity out to all, or have the opportunity that I've had, other people can have that in our community as well. So making sure that they have the chance to make amazing memories with their families and grow to love this state as much as our family does.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Anthony. At this time, we will go to our prepared questions. This will be done in a rotating order with a rebuttal opportunity. There is a 2-minute time limit for each answer. with a rebuttal opportunity with a 45-second time limit. And we will start with Aaron Cagle. And the first question, what are the top 3 issues you hear while campaigning? And if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2017 Senate and House members work in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address those issues?
Well, I think the top 3 issues that I've been hearing is number 1, education. Especially universal pre-K pre-K education. I talked to a mom on the door who had paid $6,000 in tuition for preschool and doesn't think her family can continue to pay that tuition for her daughters. And then also college tuition. There was a father in Coon Rapids who had 3 adult children living at home. All were going to, or both, 2 of his children were going to school, and his future daughter-in-law was living at home as well. And so just the skyrocketing cost of tuition is not acceptable. Transportation is another one. Minnesotans across the state need better roads, and we need a comprehensive transportation plan that will solve our infrastructure needs for the next 10 years. People in our community are sick of sitting on Highway 65 and on Highway 10. And then the third one is an economy that works for everyone. I think, making sure that we have good schools, good roads, really ensures that, that businesses can function here in our community. We need a workforce that's educated and has the skills, and we need a community that goods and services are able to move around easily and are accessible. So those are the 3 issues that I've been hearing a lot on the doors. And then, I'm a big believer in relationships, and I think, for the most part, we all want the same things. And so making sure that we build those relationships, find our commonalities, and then just work together, because in the long run, we have far more in common than we do, far more in common, and we can really, if we build those relationships, we can work together.
Thank you. Anthony, you actually would have 45 seconds to rebut that if you would like.
I'll forgo it.
All right. So then Anthony Wilder, maybe you could answer that same question. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, sir.
All right.
When you go door knocking, that is the easiest hard work that a candidate can do. You get face-to-face time with the individual that you hope to represent at the Capitol. The first one I would agree with Aaron is education. We can agree, we can all agree that we want the best educators that we have in our classrooms. And when you're looking at the higher education, the cost of tuition, are we sometimes you have to think that maybe we're setting up people for failure. That means is tuition. When you're looking at how much it is and the holes that you continuously dig yourself into for years and years and years and years, nationwide we have over $800 million in student loan debt for ages 65 and older. It's almost a mountain that you can't climb up, and it's so hard to look at the faces and the young individuals who are currently in school, and they're kind of seeing this debt that's just surmounting that's in front of them. Another, healthcare. MNsure has just been a proven failure. People are upset. They see their premiums, as Brad Sanford mentioned earlier. It's hard. It's hard on their families. Jason Miller, young man, early 30s, his wife, one young child. $700 a month is now being affected by the 5% increase. As an individual, he's now looking at about $4,800 increase annually. He can't afford it. Instead of a trip, for his family, maybe a vehicle for his wife, and he just isn't able to achieve that. The last one is partisanship. We've seen over and over how much is not getting done. This last session is very hard to look at our constituents in the face and say that nothing's getting done.
Thank you. Aaron, did you have any rebuttal for that? You have 45 seconds if you'd like.
No, we
Okay.
can move on.
All right, so then the second question we'll start with Anthony Wilder. If elected, which committees would you seek to serve on and why?
This is by far the easiest question on our sheet. Environment. I've been intertwined with being a DNR instructor for the last 7 years. As I mentioned, I'm serving on the Natural Resource Conservation Board. I'm on the Watershed Board. So preserving our natural resources for our generation, the next, and for them to come and them to follow. The Capital Investment Committee and the Aging and Long-Term Healthcare. I've had the unfortunate experience, I guess, over the last growing months with my grandparents and their illnesses. My 91-year-old grandmother, Alzheimer's, my mother being able to take care of her. Not everybody has that ability, and it's hard to see, what strain it is on our family, and I can only imagine that many other families are feeling that as well. And so just making sure that I believe the statistic is from 2030 that over 20% of our state is going to be in these facilities and some type of healthcare. And we want to make sure that they're provided with not only quality but affordable care as we all age. I mentioned my mother and her ability to take care of her mother. And I believe that she's trying to show me and my siblings the right way of how she wants to be treated. I think that we all want dignity, respect as we continue to age, and I wonder if the state's truly providing that or not, and I want to be a part of it.
Thank you. Aaron Cagle, you have 45 seconds to rebut or 2 minutes to answer.
Well, I think one of the things that that Mr. Wilder talked about was, caring for family members. And so one thing that I think we can really do as a state is provide paid medical family leave so that, people don't have to make that choice between, a paycheck or caring for a new family member or a new baby or an aging parent. And so, they should be able to care for their family members without fear of losing their job.
Okay. So now you've got 2 minutes to answer the question.
So my committees, I would really like to serve on some of the education committees. Like I said, I work with Head Start. The agency I work for provides Head Start, and so I want to be a champion for pre-K education. It's a way to ensure that our youngest learners are getting the Head Start in school that they need, and then it's also just a really wise economic investment. There's been studies that show that for every $1 we invest in early childhood education, there's at least a $3 return on that investment, and some studies have shown up to $17. And so, the children who participate in high quality early childhood education are more likely to finish school, they're more likely to go on to post-secondary, and less likely to become involved in the criminal justice system. And then also, I want to ensure that college is accessible and affordable to people. It's not just the young people that are worried about this, but their parents, because it's not just young people who are taking on that burden, it's the whole family. And so making sure that, that people can go to school if they really want to. And then I'd like to also serve on job growth and economic development. I believe workers need a voice at the Capitol. If we invest in education, if we invest in our roads and our communities, then it will draw businesses to our communities. And so making sure that education and infrastructure is there is our key building blocks to developing an economy that works for everyone. And then, just making sure that, people who work hard and are willing to work hard are have their voice heard at the Capitol.
Thank you. The third question.
Do I get a rebuttal?
Yes, you have 45 seconds to rebut. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to address the pre-K situation. Statistics are statistics, and they show that 70% of our children are already receiving the knowledge from a home base. So investing into pre-K is a bad decision in my opinion, and that's pretty much the only rebuttal I really had on that one.
Okay. Well, thank you, and thank you for asking for it. All right. Now we'll go to question 3, and we'll start with Aaron Cagle. Both parties agree that increased funding is needed for road and transit system improvements. How would you propose those funds be raised?
Well, I think the thing, like you said, both parties agree that there is that increase in funding is needed. There's a $600 million per year funding gap that we need to solve in order to fix our roads and bridges in our community. And everyone agrees that we need that revenue. And so I think the one thing that I would definitely listen to the people of the district. From what I've been hearing and some of the research I've done, a modest gas tax seems to be the proposal that would generate the most amount of revenue with the least amount of burden on the average Minnesota family. But then I think we also need to look at innovative new solutions. Our communities are changing, our technology is changing, and so we need to look at innovative new solutions and also expand on the addition or on the proven solutions.
Thank you. Anthony, you have 45 seconds to rebut that.
The other thing that I would like to rebut is the gas tax. It's not an option just because vehicles are changing. They're turning electric, vehicles are getting lighter. We need to pay our attention to different means to fund our transit systems. So.
All right. And then you have 2 minutes to answer that same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, sir.
All right.
For the record, I would have voted for the bonding bill that was passed by the House in regards to the $600 million dollar. But when we're trying to exceed the expectations and you're trying to find more money, I don't believe that gas tax is the one, is our avenue. Perhaps our general fund. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that I have all the answers, but at the same time, I know that there's different means. As technology increases, I know that there's a different way for that. But I believe through our bonding bill and perhaps our general fund that there's ways to truly fund the transportation, as Jerry Newton alluded to earlier, the bridges that were held up over Hanson for, let's take our Coon Rapids Fire Department. And and our other emergency vehicles that need to respond quickly. And if there's they do need to get to their locations in a timely fashion. And I just want to make sure that they're receiving that assistance from us from the state.
Thank you. Erin, you have 45 seconds to rebut that.
Well, I think pulling from the general fund is not a good idea because that general fund money is used for other things. And so when you take away from the general fund, you're taking away from education and other programs that need that money. And so I don't think that we should be using shifts and gimmicks to fund our roads.
All right, thank you. Question number 4. We'll start with Anthony Wilder. You can expect 3,500 bills next session. Each one is important to someone. When it comes to fiscal policy discussions and priority setting, how would you represent and advocate for your district?
Alluding to earlier, both Senate candidates are. It's hard when you have 3,500. It's not realistic that each one of those bills is going to affect everyone in your district the same. I know that. Yeah, city officials, mayors, business owners, when they approach you, when a bill is being presented and they have questions and concerns, or if they wanted attention brought to the particular bills, you need to talk with them. Either in their office, at their office. You need to keep an open line of communication. You need to create bills your own to create just good communication and forward thinking. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Do you have 45 seconds to rebut?
I'm just moving to the question, yeah.
Okay, so then you have 2 minutes to answer.
Well, I think I would, advocate an open door policy. I definitely want to be a representative for the people of my district and listen to constituents and make sure that I am a reflection of the district. And so that, that will always be something that I will have as an open door policy for my constituents. I've already heard some great solutions to problems on the door, and I'm just utterly impressed with the people that I've been talking to. That father of the college-age students had a really great idea for helping kids with tuition. And so, just really being an advocate for my community and making sure that I'm listening to their needs and their wants, and then following the bills that they want me to follow.
Thank you. Anthony, you have 45 seconds to rebut that.
No need.
All right. Very good. Well, then we'll move into our question from the audience. And this we'll start with Aaron Cagle on this one. What will you do to help reform the Metropolitan Council?
Well, I'm laughing because I have a friend, Katie, who's on the Met Council here. And so I think Representative Newton's idea of staggered terms is a really good idea. I didn't realize that institutional knowledge was lost at the, when a new governor came in. And I think the key thing too is just looking at the intended purpose of the Met Council, and then looking at what kind of new developments we need to make, or how we can reflect the current environment that we're living in now. And so that's what I would want to do, is just really look at the intended purposes, and then look at the how the environment that we are in, and see if there are changes that need to be made.
Thank you. Anthony, you have 45 seconds to rebut if you would like, or you can go into your answer.
I will just go into my answer.
Okay.
The Met Council is constantly ever changing, and when you're looking at a 50-year-old program or greater than 50-year-old, I don't know enough about the Met Council to speak clearly about the situations, but it does seem that we can't spend money fast enough in the state, and to reform any projects, you'd have to understand the people who are newly appointed to the staff, and understand where their takes are, and work with them when different situations come about. So.
All right, thank you. Aaron, did you have any rebuttal? All right. So that is actually the end of our questions for this forum, and we will now go to the closing statements of our candidates in the reverse order of our opening statements. 60 seconds maximum per candidate, and we'll start with Aaron Cagle.
I just want to thank you for this opportunity to talk to the community, and I believe in the long run, that we all want the same things. We want good schools, we want safe neighborhoods, we want good roads and good jobs. And so, like I said, I'm a big believer in that relationship building, and so I will do everything to build relationships with people in my community and be their voice at the Capitol. And so that I really hope to be your next representative. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony Wilder, your closing comments?
Again, thank you for having us this evening. It's truly an honor to represent a community. When you're asking to be the voice of 40,000 people plus, you want to make sure that you're choosing the right voice. When our community is asking and crying out for attention, for our education, having good leaders within our school systems, transportation, making sure that we have the appropriate funds going toward our roads, that you're being fiscally responsible, and truly when you're in those chambers, those committees, and you're talking with other members to try to act as your voice, you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing and that you're making progress, and I ask for your vote come November. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both, Aaron Cagle and Anthony Wilder. Thank you. That brings us to the close of this forum. We would like to thank the candidates, the audience, the cable staff, and the City of Coon Rapids for hosting this forum. You know what, actually, I think we're probably good because we're going to break for a couple minutes, and then we're going to have Susan Witt come up and introduce herself. So thank you all. We'll just be back in a few minutes.
Hey Minnesota, it's election year, so let's get ready to vote. MNVotes.org can help. First, check if you're registered to vote at your current address. If not, register to vote online. Then, check out your sample ballot and learn about the candidates and issues. Use the polling place finder to see where you vote, or avoid the polling place by voting early before Election Day. Request your absentee ballot online. Your vote starts at mnvotes.org.
Welcome back to the North Metro Mayors Association Candidate Forum. We're now looking at House Race 37B. Candidate Nolan West was unable to be with us this evening, so Susan Witt will have an opportunity of up to 5 minutes to introduce herself and share a few comments. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, Susan.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. And also thank you to the North Metro Mayors Association for this opportunity to be able to introduce myself and express some of my opinions. I am Susan Witt, and I'm running for 37B, which is most of the city of Blaine. My family and I have lived here in this district for 35 years. I am a retired teacher. I taught for 27 years in the Spring Lake Park School District, and my husband Jeff is also a teacher that retired from Spring Lake Park High School and also taught there for 27 years. We have raised 3 children who graduated from the Spring Lake Park School District. Our 2 sons are married, and we have 1 grandson who is about almost 8 months old, and our daughter is a major in the Minnesota National Guard, and that's also her full-time job. I have held numerous leadership positions in my own teachers union, both at the state and the local level, and I have also held many leadership positions in my church. I'm still very active at my church and in the community with some programs such as Meals on Wheels, Habitat for Humanity. I am currently serving as the volunteer coordinator for Family Promise in Anoka County at our church. I have been involved in public service my whole life, both as a teacher and a volunteer. I am running for this position to put the needs of families, students, and seniors first down at the state capitol. We need to put people ahead of politics. We need to also work together, as has been mentioned several times. That gridlock has come up many times at the door. People are concerned about that. We need to work together to get things done. There were 3 topics that were mentioned as possible points of discussion for this evening, and one of them was transportation funding. We definitely need to increase our funding. There's not enough revenue to support the current and maintain the current system. We need a comprehensive plan that's going to continue to help the needs of our growing communities. We need to keep all funding options on the table, I feel. There's no one solution to this problem. We need to also work together to come up with a sustainable revenue plan. The last time that a transportation bill was passed, both the Republicans and the Democrats worked together and were able to get a plan completed. The workforce was listed as another possible topic for this evening, although it didn't come up in the other the questions that were asked. It really kind of spilled over into the education area, because the job skills gap will only continue to grow if we don't address this and put it as a priority at the legislature. We need to invest in education, particularly 2-year technical colleges. Intergovernmental relations was the 3rd topic mentioned as a possible source of discussion for this evening. Again, getting back to that topic of we must work together. We need to collaborate with all groups involved, at all levels. Collaboration is needed to advance these objectives, and then we need to continue, of course, to be fiscally responsible as we do that. The needs of the community should remain the top priority as we work together. In concluding, I would like to thank you again for the opportunity to be able to be here to share a little bit about myself. I'm sorry my opponent was unable to be here to express his views, but I feel I have the experience working with collaboration with different groups, with the public, that both as a teacher and a volunteer. And I would like to take those skills to the Capitol. So I'm asking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to ask for a volunteer to do the 45-second rebuttal, but no, we won't. This actually concludes our forum for this evening. And on behalf of the North Metro Mayors Association, I would like to thank the candidates and the audience for attending this evening's forum. CTN, the Coon Rapids Community Television Network, and their staff for recording and broadcasting tonight's forum, and to the City of Coon Rapids for hosting. Remember, early voting is now open, so if you are going to be busy, like maybe being an election judge on November 8th, or otherwise might not be available to make it to the polls, get out and vote early, or get out on November 8th and cast your vote. And for all of us, I'd just like to wish you good night. Thank you.